Alright, here we are with another random mechanicking slash do-it-yourself project, I guess is what we call it. I've been working on skis since I was 10, probably, and I'm 25 now, so it's been a minute. This ski is a 2005 Honda Aquatrax f-12. It's not a turbo. f-12X is a turbo. For this particular project, they're the same, not any different from the turbo version to this version. So what happened is the front cover, this guy, also known, I believe Honda calls it the oil cover. There's a bunch of oil in there. This is the one that I took off. It's cracked. You can weld these. This one has been welded already. Also JB'd, and it's cracked in a couple spots, so for this customer I decided not to, he's selling this one, so he wants it right. So this is the cover. It's been welded here. It was JB'd. I think this was 2 separate times that this cracked. The reason that they crack is because it sits in there like this. All of this is your oil side, so you got like your oil pump, and I'm not really sure what all is in there. I haven't really had to deal with a lot of internal engine stuff on these Hondas. This one's got 800 hours on it, so it's got to be a testament to Honda. But if you have one of these, you probably know they don't sell them anymore, and trying to find somebody to work on them is very difficult. So this guy's lucky that he has someone like me that will work on these things. Anyway, they took it off. They JB'd all up in here. I definitely do not recommend JB welding anything inside of the engine, even if it's on the water side. I mean, if any of this JB breaks off, gets in the cooling system, it could jam stuff up, and you don't want that, I promise. So they JB'd in the inside, they JB'd on the outside, and it held for a long time. This guy has had this, oh, sorry about that. This guy's had this ski for a long time, and I mean, probably 500 hours, and it's never gave him any issues. Well, the stator, the regulator rectifier mounts here, and this bolt broke off, so probably what they did was they just used this bolt and tightened it down, hope it didn't move. Well, it moved, and it vibrated down. That is an imprint from the regulator rectifier. Probably what happened, just a theory, it rotated down, hit that, knocked the JB weld off, and now this crack is exposed and it's pissing water out. So if you have water coming out of this front cover, this is probably your issue. Water gets down in here, and if you do not winterize it, and there's no antifreeze in here, the water will freeze, expand, and try to find a way out, and it's coming out here. Happens all the time. This cover's about $500. Luckily for me, there's a guy down the street that parts out a bunch of these skis. It's a friend of mine, and he hooked me up with this cover so I can get this guy back on the water. You have to move the gas tank for this. I have it set back in place now. Should have made a video before, but I didn't. There's a intake that sets right here, so your air filter deals here, and then it bolts to the throttle body here. It makes this a lot easier. I don't know if you can do it without taking this off. Like I said, I don't know what the proper procedure is for this, but this is what I did. You have a cover that mounts onto here. You take all these screws out, take that cover off, and then your stacks, your intake stacks, will mount onto there. So you take these screws out here. There's a couple more on the back. Take that out. Then it will expose these, which mount to the throttle bodies. Take all those bolts out. You can slide this thing towards the front of the ski. It sits on this, and then there's another deal here. So you got to slide it forward. It'll come out of that peg, and you can pull it out. Get it out of your way. There's a couple of wires you have to undo. That'll be one. I think that's the IAT, air intake, temperature sensor, and I unplugged all my coil packs and regulator rectifier. Obviously, you gotta unplug that. That has to come off before you can take these bolts out. We'll talk about that in a second. Got a couple more wires in here. this guy and this guy, take those off, set this harness out of your way. Once you do that, you can gain access to these bolts, but you have to move the tank first. So what I did, you don't need to take this strap off, and if you can get away with not taking those off, you're better off, promise you, because these things are a pain to get off. So take this and slide it out of this little track right here, just slide it down and kind of pull it towards the back of the tank. You're best if you can get most of the gas out of this tank. This one is almost full, almost flat full. I didn't take the gas out of it because I'm stupid, and I should have taken that out. You're gonna have to take this one loose. There's no way around it. You can't get enough play in it to get the tank forward. So if you can take this, clamp some channel locks to it, pull it over. If you can, try to clamp your channel locks over here so that you have all of this room to stretch. Push it real hard and unclip it from, there's a little clip here that it just kind of slides down and comes off. So you can take that off, pry up the front of your tank, but be careful, because if you pry underneath this tank and it's got gas in it or any kind of weight, then it can puncture the tank. So just don't puncture this tank, because if you do, you are screwed. You gotta take the motor out to get this tank out. I don't think it'll come out from the front. So don't do that. Pry it up, slide it forward, get it sitting, I believe mine set about right here. You don't have to get it too far. The reason that you have to take the tank forward is because there are some long bolts down here. Across the bottom of this thing, this cover, these bolts are about 6 inches long. So when you take them loose, they won't come out. And this cover has some things that kind of protrude into it here. So this cover has to come forward. So you can't do it without taking the tank forward or moving the motor back, which requires taking the pump out. So just do it that way. There's bolts all down the inside of this thing. I'll show you here. If you want to like take a screenshot here, this will probably help you a lot. There's 20 bolts total. So all the way down this side. There's one here behind your regulator rectifier. A couple on the bottom here. And all the way up this one side. All but about 6 of these bolts are different lengths. So make sure you make a note as to where they come. Because if you don't, it's not going to be fun when you go to put it back together. You're obviously going to want to evacuate the oil before you start all this mess. And that you can do from back here. Take this loose. That goes into the bottom of the crankcase. I have a pneumatic oil draining magic machine thingy here. So get one of those. That's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot to this job. You can do it yourself, especially since nobody wants to work on these Hondas anymore. It's not that bad. Just there's a metal gasket behind here. You don't have to get a new one. You probably should. So don't take my word for that. I've reused these a couple times before, and it's never given issue. Don't pry on this thing. If you pry on it, you can damage the surface here, or you can damage this metal gasket here. There's 2 dowels in it. There's a dowel on the top on this side, and then there's a dowel on the bottom on this side. So make sure you don't lose those dowels, because that's how it gets its alignment. Other than that, just don't pry, don't beat on stuff, use finesse, and good luck.